If you're watching this video, you've probably never hired a marketing agency before, which is kind of surprising, at the same time commendable, because you managed to become a DLC member and scale your business to such an extent without a marketing agency. So kudos to you. But obviously, going forward, in order to scale even further, reach new heights, tap into new demographics and new markets, it's always advisable to get on board a specialist marketing agency to help you grow. So today I'm here to help you understand why you should hire a marketing agency. So what purpose does an agency solve? The first thing we need to understand is what exactly is a marketing agency. In broad terms, a marketing agency is your assistant in order to help you scale and reach newer markets, demographics, and help you reach your sale targets. They do that by collectively understanding your target audience and pushing forth communication to them very effectively. What are the types of collaborations that you, as a client, can have with a potential marketing agency? The first is a retainer service, and this is somewhat of a long-term contract. I would like to term it as a marriage. You need to be 100% sure of the kind of agency that you're looking to tap into. And the second type of collaboration is a project base. So these are short-term collaborations which involve you working with an agency for a stipulated period of time or right up till a campaign is over. When should you hire an agency? It basically, there comes a time in the growth journey of your company where you reach your ceiling, and in order to take that ceiling even further, higher, you would require a partner to come on board. Now that partner will assist you with newer markets, newer products, newer targeting, and finally, obviously, help you scale in much larger consequences. All of this obviously can't be done by your in-house team, and thereby a marketing agency would have the specialization to help you scale. We move on to what kind of options are available for you as a client when you go agency shopping. Typically, there are three types of marketing agencies. The first kind is a boutique agency. Now, before we deep dive into what each of these mean, it's imperative for you to understand that all three of them have their pros and all three of them have their cons. It would solely depend on the kind of relationship that you would like to have with your marketing agency. And thereby, that's the key factor for you to decide. But let me just deep dive into what each of these are. The first is a boutique agency. Usually, boutique agencies are small in size. They typically range for anything between 10 to 50 individuals working in an agency. And they tend to usually specialize in one or two key services. They don't have the plethora of options available in terms of services. And if they do offer it, it's most likely going to be outsourced to another partner. It works well when you and the agency click in terms of a wavelength and your understanding match. It also works well for you if you are a growing brand and you are looking for a partner who gives you a lot of importance. In their brand roster, you could technically be their top 2 or 3 clients. And if that's important to you, then a boutique agency works. We move on to mid-sized agencies, which is the second type of agencies available. Mid-sized agencies usually have the pros of the larger agencies, and at the same time, they don't really have most of the cons. They are anything typically between 50 and 200 in terms of team strength. They would usually have key departments and specializations within their agency. They also would usually have expert opinion and specialization in some industries. So if your brand belongs to a particular industry that they specialize in, then it works very well for you. And they tend to give a lot of importance to mid-sized and larger companies. And then finally, we have your group or global agencies. And these are usually part of a network. They're massive, most likely international as well. And they start at 200 and they move all the way up to even 2,000 employees within their agency. Um, they're so big that they do have partner agencies as part of their network, which specialize in certain services. The con that I would look at is that your brand may not be very important to them. And that's actually a very big problem because they don't really give you that due importance that your brand deserves at times. However, there are quite a lot of pros, some of them being that they get great deals in terms of negotiation when it comes to media monies and advertising fees, which go to third parties. So they tend to get better deals because of their spending power. So now it comes to the key question here. Why should you hire an agency? The first and most important point is that whether you're local or global, right, an agency can easily toggle between the two and has the key expertise to manage both. Let's take an example of one of our clients, right? This case study, which I'm playing for you, belongs to a brand called Diesel, which is a global brand. And in India, it's owned by Reliance Brands Limited. Diesel is a global brand. Obviously, it's widely known and it sells lovely jeans and fashion wear. And when it entered the market of India, it didn't really have key assets here. It also needed a localization strategy and a localization approach, which an agency like us could provide. So we actually crafted a campaign which was award-winning and happens to also be one of India's first influencer marketing campaigns, wherein we tapped into the wide pool of celebrities and had a very interesting product shared with them, a customized product, part of the campaign taglines, which reflected on the celebrity's on-screen or off-screen personality. Now, it was sent in a very quirky way. We had models dressed up as dabbawalas sent to these celebrities at lunch hour. And it actually had a cute ring to it as well because the product was, of course, quirky. It came in a small, tiffin, and the celebrities would resonate well with it. We had almost a 80% posting ratio. That means none of them were paid, but almost 80% of them posted that content free of charge. And it was a massive success for the brand as well as for us as an agency. At that time, we were a growing agency. So it did really well. What was actually appreciated was the localization method and strategy that was applied. And somebody sitting in Italy or Milan wouldn't really be able to conjure up an advertising concept or a campaign so local. Thereby, an agency would always have that upper hand in terms of understanding of the target market. The second reason why you should hire an agency is actually taking a negative take. And an example in front of you would actually highlight why you should hire an agency so that you don't make a mistake like this. One brand, a coffee brand, actually recently went live with a campaign. And apparently, the inside scoop is that the agency that was on board also recommended that they don't. But they insisted and they went through, and it actually received a lot of flack on social media as well as even on ground. I'm not sure if their sales have been affected yet because it's too early. But the key focus is that an agency is usually that buffer period and also that voice of reasoning for a client at times. It could act like an inner conscience and respond back in terms of distress or in terms of questionable thoughts like these. So campaigns need to obviously not hurt any sentiments. And agencies having the experience of working on multiple campaigns in the past can foresee situations like this. So sometimes an in-house team tends to oversee that. So that's the second reason. And moving on, and these are some of the comments that we happen to find out and look on the internet to identify as well. Moving on, conceptualize and optimize your vision. So at times you may have a thought which has recently just stemmed out, right? But in order to get it executed, you may not have the right methods or the team to take that on a larger scale. And that's where an agency could come in, because they take your ideas to life. Similarly, how you take your brand to life and have grown it to such an extent. When it comes to marketing certain concepts, the agency is the one who actually takes it further and takes it live. Some examples of lovely campaigns in front of you as well, by Pawns, which have actually had great rewards for the brand. Moving on, negotiation power. If you are running a marketing campaign, you would have large marketing spends as well. And those marketing spends actually don't really go to an agency, but they go to a third party. And they could be allocated on traditional mediums like television, like newspaper, or outdoor billboards as well, or even on digital mediums like Google Network, so the Google Ad Network, or Facebook and Instagram, which is basically Meta. So you could actually allocate your spends on multiple platforms altogether. Now, if a brand usually approaches any of these platforms directly, they get a rack rate. And that rack rate is always 15 to 30% higher than what an agency would get. Reason being is the agency spend millions and millions of dollars a month on some of these platforms because of the collective number of brands that actually advertise through to them. They also get great amount of discounts and deals which they pass on to their clients. And we are also, party to that. The largest of agencies have the best deals. So in this sense, the amount that you usually pay for your campaign or your service fee is, in fact, much lesser than what the discount you would be getting if you have large marketing budgets. So all of this actually arises to the question, then why not take your marketing in-house and build a team internally itself? And I have some points to discuss that and counter them. The first is when you do bring on a marketing agency, they are your growth partner. They don't have any ulterior mission to satisfy any of the marketing heads' egos. It's more straight to the point. It's more academic, and most of the time you would get an unbiased response to certain suggestions. The second is marketing without the stress. Once you do hire a marketing agency and you're quite comfortable with the way their marketing activities are running, you can then take a back seat and focus on your core business activities, which is basically growing your business, improving your product or your service, and let the marketing agency take care of the rest. So that's basically a great plus point for most of the clients that even we work with. If you are working with a brand for over 3 to 6 months, you tend to get into groove, and you tend to understand exactly what they're thinking, what are the creative campaigns that they would approve, and then it tends to go into an automated running system. The next one is a one-stop shop. At an agency, you will have access to specialists in almost every department. And if today you activate an agency for service A, B, and C, and you're looking to explore service D, an agency can always give you suggested options, strategies before you actually deep dive into it. If you have an in-house marketing team, you would need to hire specialists before you bring them on, even before you activate those services. That could be a high cost for you. And in case you are not operating with specialists and you're working with generalists, the service would not be the best. And thereby, you'd rather have the option of working with specialists. Just to give you an example, in our production team, our head of production has over 15 years of production experience. And any of our clients, whether or not they're availing our production service or not, can pick up the phone and request a meeting, one-on-one meeting with that production head, thereby just deep diving and understanding what would be the ideal strategy, cost, or implication if they do go ahead with a large scale film. The last is spending your budget wisely. Now, just to give you perspective of how marketing agencies run in-house, right? We have the most value for money spenders within the agency. When clients come to us and say, my annual budget for this year is example X, the agency takes that budget internally and bifurcates it in such a way that you get bang for your buck. The spends are allocated extremely carefully in a way wherein there is no wastage of money. Yes, at times, if the budget goes exceedingly high, then the agency usually tries out a new medium or two. However, if the budgets are low, most of the time, the spends are allocated in a very correct manner due to the past experience of working in a particular industry. Now we move on to the process of onboarding an agency. The first and most important one is have a detailed onboarding briefing session before you take an agency on board. The brief is the most important piece. If the brief is cracked well, the output will be even better. If the brief is vague, the agency is not at fault. They will be operating in the dark. So it's always good to have your business objectives chalked out and certain key insights provided to your agency with regards to your past as well as your current target audiences. So those insights are helpful for the agency to build for the future. The second is good and due amount of time given to onboard the agency. Once you have selected your agency and you believe that they're the right fit for you, give them the amount of time that they ask for before they start work on your work. The reason being, internally, there are a lot of processes that need to be completed and adapted before work can commence. If the content writer wants to become an expert in that industry, they do require some amount of reading time. And that research time could take anything between 2 to 3 weeks. Similarly, if you are looking to build multiple campaigns throughout the year, it's imperative that the strategy team of the agency figures out the broad level budgets and the strategy and the timeline before the year starts. So these are actually all the activities that take place before the work even commences. Again, deep diving into the strategy aspect, it's always better to start with strategy before you move into creative. Strategy is that point wherein an agency would try to understand your business goals and your objectives, where you are right now, and map out the way as to how they can reach that given a particular amount of time. It could take 6 months, a year, 5 years as well. If that is set in stone, it's always easier for the creative teams to conceptualize campaigns and creative ideas. The next is every time there is a high impact campaign, be honest about your KPIs, your targets, and your budgets. If that honesty and transparency is maintained, the agency has a better chance of achieving them. Another key important point is timely and effective feedback. As soon as you feel that the content is not up to the mark, it's important that you actually state that and you state it to the right person within the agency. Sometimes an escalation is required and that could have great benefits as well. You could speak to the senior most person and you could witness a drastic change overnight, and the content and your overall campaigns sees a drastic improvement. So it's important to give feedback in a timely manner and also in a detailed manner. And finally, every agency requires time. Even in a relationship, you tend to give a little bit of teething period. And those teething periods can take any time between 1 month to 3 months. So it's key that a little bit of teething period is given, wherein a lot of feedback is given. At the same time, it's also implemented by the agency. So that's it, guys. Thanks a lot. Looking forward.